haunted. It has been maybe 2 or 3 hours since we got back. Maybe more. I don't know. I crashed on the couch and took a heavy nap. Now I see why people stay in the shade dimension instead of going into others' minds. Ratchet was doing a diagnosis on Optimus, making sure there was no more signs of the plague. I was watching from afar, resting my head on a pillow. And, as per usual, Optimus had a stern frown on his face. Sometimes I think he needs to lighten up. I shook my head, smiling softly. My eyelids drooped slightly. I was still exhausted from the mind jump. I heard a beep, and picked my head up. Long-lost words whisper slowly to me. I wouldn't advise anything strenuous, Optimus. Ratchet smiled, but it appears that your systems have fully recovered from the cybonic plague. I nodded dully, resting my head back on the pillow. Everything hurts. I huffed, rolling onto my side. I hate naps. Of course, we can't forget Molly. What? I yawned, picking my head up again. You were the one who convinced Megatron to give us the data, Ratchet stated. Oh, I looked away. That. How do I say how like I wanted to say that? They were voices in my head. I bit my lower lip, and stretched my back. Still can't find. What keeps me here? Lucky for us, Megatron was still alive. RC put a hand on her hip. Yeah, sure, lucky, whatever. My eyelids closed, then I jerked back up. Yeah, I actually said that. RC responded to B's words. What matters, Ratchet continued, is that you are on the mends, Optimus, while Megatron B interrupted with his beeping. He's right. RC shrugged, did my best to finish Megatron's story. Just couldn't stick around long enough to see how it ended. I hummed, and my ears shivered. I watched B's optic change size, and he walked off in a trance. Odd. When all this time I've been so hollow inside. I looked back at Optimus, making sure he wasn't looking. But it seemed that, luck would have it, Optimus was staring at me in faint concern. I looked away quickly, hiding my eyes. But B didn't seem right. He seemed, for lack of a better word, aimless. Controlled. Dazed. Possessed. The two mesh started playing an edited version of basketball. Bulkhead vs Bumblebee. They were playing with a welded sphere, and Micah was the ref. Jack and Raph were at event, while I was typing furiously on my laptop. It has to be here. I muttered long lists of words. There. I stopped on a page showing a dark, menacing form of smoke. It had huge wings, and fire bellowed from the center of its chest where its heart should be. Oh, and look. The heart is grasped in its claw. That's nice. Queen Razorclaw, it read, was the murderous dragon tyrant that controlled Orifice till her day of suicide. Known for murdering her sister, Queen Sophina, by tearing out her heart. She was said to have sold her soul to a demon, but this was later debunked when Illustratum was unearthed by archaeologists and found it to be a first-hand account written by the fabled Dersu, Ben of Fate. Her skeleton was found at the bottom of Dead Rock Gorge, the area around it bare and dry. I closed the tab quickly, afraid to see the painting scan. Razorclaw ... that was the dragoness's name. Razorclaw. And the gold one must have been Sophina. I'll read up on that more later. I frowned, shutting my laptop. I heard a crunch of metal, and turned my head. Bumblebee was holding his hands up, buzzing apologetically. Bor was at the other side of the room. I know you're still there. I grimaced, leaning away. A flagrant foul. Micah whistled. Dodgeball by way of Cybertron. Jack shrugged. I shook my head, glaring at B. I swear, something wasn't right. The way his optics looked, and the way he shook his helm, like he was getting out of a trance. I raised an eyebrow, slowly opened the laptop, and went back to web surfing. Possession. Possession is when a demon or other entity enters one's body and takes control. That didn't help. I snarled. An idea flashed in my mind. Risks of entering and exiting the mindscape. A long list of possibilities spanned down to the bottom of the screen and beyond. I scrolled down, and froze. Entrapment of the owner of said mind. Description: if you do not take the precaution measures of exiting a mindscape, the owner of the mind can escape its own dream by tagging along. Well, SHT. I muttered, we are going down and you're coming with me to speak to Satan. I growled, and glared at the back of B's helm. Watching me. I followed B as he walked down the halls. I stayed in the rafters, avoiding any noise. Megatron will want to return to his body, and the only way to revive him will be with Dark Energon. Where is he going to find that besides ... Oh fuck. I silently groaned, Dead Rock Gorge. I knew this would tie in somehow. Then, B froze. Now. I dove from the rafters, slamming B's torso into the wall. I don't care if you are in Bumblebee's body, I snarled, my pupils dilating to points. I will not let you get away with this. Megatron glared at me from B's optics, evil glint shining behind them. But, I continued, baring my teeth, you can't do anything in there as long as I can help it. I released him, pushing him away from me. B shook his head, regaining control. He whirred. You froze in the hall. I lied. I smacked you upside the helm and you woke back up. I continued walking down the halls, looking at him through the corner of my eye. I can't let Megatron get to his body. But how am I supposed to do that if I'm the only one who knows? I felt the same stare come from B, but I did not turn. Because I can't let Megatron have the satisfaction of knowing I am in paranoia. I swear, I could hear star screams gloating from here. Who wouldn't? The next morning at school was a blur, and I probably dropped from an A to a B in math due to no attendance. Hell, the principal is probably thinking I skipped the rest of the day. During first period, I pulled the fire alarm to create a diversion. When the coach was ushering everyone out, I was in the locker room getting dressed and running off campus. Good girl. That voice. You know what you have to do. You can't just let your own kingdom fall apart due to own Scout's demise. I bit my lip, and scurried away from the school. Optimus isn't going to pick me if he finds out I am skipping class. I stated, dialing a number on my phone. I'm going to need backup. My phone started ringing, the contact picture showing a smirking wolf. Hello? David. I smiled, I need a ride. I was sitting in the bed of the truck, crouching down behind the tailgate. Sand clouded behind us as well raced into the desert. There. I shouted over the wind. David stuck his thumb out, putting on the brakes. We were about 100 meters from base, and I jumped out of the truck. Thanks, David. I smiled, watching him drive off. I already know that they could see my beacon from base, and I turned off my earpiece. Better safe than sorry. I started sprinting around to the back of base, and found the vent. High up on the side. I scaled the rock with ease, and tore into the grating. The crawl space was tight, a little too tight. My bones quickly shrunk, and I was now a sandy fox with a hint of red. My black paws pattered in the vents, and I finally made through the ups and downs of the ventilation and into the main room. Bumblebee's complaining of intermittent visions, Ratchet explained, B's optics going out, waking nightmares, if you will. But you said B was fine when you checked him over. Raph protested. I peeked through the vent grating, and started clawing it. Physically, Ratchet stated, but the experience he endured seems to be having a temporary effect on his psyche. The induced power down should force Bumblebee's mind to rest and recover. What about Molly? Optimus asked. She has had more experience with these mind jumps. Ratchet claimed, even if she had some effects physically, they seem to be only temporary. Her culture knows more about this mindscape than we could ever. Wanting me. She was the only one with him, Ruff stated. Could they have seen something we didn't? Highly unlikely. Ratchet shook his head. Clank. They turned, seeing a ventilation cover fall to the ground. A fox was watching it plummet to the ground, flinching. It looked back up at them, its emerald eyes frozen. Hi. I waved a paw, leaping down from the vent. Is B all right? He hasn't gone to DRG, has he? I asked frantically, scampering over to them. Molly, Optimus frowned. You should be at school. And how is it that I'm the only one who knows what's going on? I raised a fluffy eyebrow, shifting back to human form. What are you talking about? Ratchet asked. I opened my mouth to speak, but was quickly interrupted with beeping. Prime. Fowler's face popped up onto a screen. You spot any Decepticons wearing hula skirts lately? No. I laughed, but that was hilarious. I put a hand on my hip, popping my neck. Why? Optimus asked, scooping me up and setting me on his shoulder. Is Jumba trying to make more experiments? I smirked. I swear, that four-eyed scientist. It's not the Hawaiian aliens. Fowler assured. I was hoping you'd have a lead on the cons that busted into the Kauai Naval Observatory. Place looked like it was hit by an army of wrecking balls. Are you sure it wasn't Jumbo again? I asked. Why would cons break into an observatory? RC questioned. Does the Hoitnakagosian ring any bells? Fowler asked. The space telescope. Ruff answered. I nodded, but still connecting this with one of Stitch's antics. As of last night, Fowler replied, missing its primary lens. My eyes widened. It's difficult to guess Starscream's intent, Optimus informed, without knowing where the lens has been taken. No, it isn't. I scoffed. They're trying to make a heat ray. I can't believe the Decepticons have stooped so low to create the stereotypical plan to melt the ice caps. I shook my head in shame. So stereotypical. Her bossiness is right. Fowler nodded, earning a hiss from me. The lens has a tracking device. The screen showed a map of the northern Arctic. The Arctic? RC sighed. Great. Another chance to freeze our spark plugs off. If it's a heat ray, I smirked, it's gonna feel like the Florida without the mosquitoes. I smiled, before OSHT. If that thing hits the machine, the kingdom is going to be in ruins. I screamed, pacing back and forth quickly. What machine? Fowler asked. The one that keeps you humans ignorant and clueless. I snarled. How do you think you thought mythical creatures were fake? That machine helped us save the whole planet from dying, and the whole frigging kingdom from collapsing. I curled my fingers into my scalp, hyperventilating. Molly. Raph yelled, pulling me down to his level. Calm down. It's going to be all right? Like I haven't noticed. I panicked, resting my head in my hands. I worked too hard on rebuilding that thing to let it be uncovered and destroyed. I breathed. The map zoomed in, a big purple area showing up. Bulkhead whistled. That's a ND7 class. Biggest unminable energon deposit there is. Unminable until Starscream melts his way down to it. Optimus finished. With the help of the lens. RC nodded. Melting a glacier that size would cause sea levels to rise and demolish coastal cities. Fowler concluded. Optimus turned to me. How important is that machine you were talking about? Very important. I growled. It's the only thing keeping Animalia hidden from the rest of the world. Only thing keeping the portal to hell closed. Only thing keeping all Animalians' glamour on. And trust me, you do not want to see me without my glamour when I'm pissed. I rubbed my arm, feeling a scabbed scar. I can feel you pull me down. Poor Raph, he was talking to B when I left with the bots. It was way too warm for my liking, almost humid. Goosebumps covered my arms from the lack of cold, and my breath was clouds of cold air. It's too hot. I complained, my body shaking. It's almost as if you react to the exact opposite of humans when it is warm. Optimus smirked. I narrowed my eyes, my jaw setting. Well, duh. I mumbled, my body temperature is below freezing, so it makes sense that I hate heat and humidity. How I even survived in South Texas is a miracle. I rubbed my arms up and down, trying to cool myself off. I looked around, seeing icicles dripping, probably cold water. A lot different than our last polar visit. RC observed, it feels like summer. I hate summer weather. I grunted, too much bugs and humidity. Well, aren't you just a little ray of sunshine? RC jested. I almost growled, if it wasn't for the extreme increase of heat coming from the other side of the ice wall. We leaned around it, and I froze. A beam of fire directed towards the center of the ice field was coming out of the Nemesis. Here, that's a bad thing, Bulkhead claimed as we watched the cloud of mist below from the impact. I gulped, leaning away from the heat that made me sweat. I'm going to spin around in circles for a minute. I shivered, helps me when I am about to attack. I backed away, and saw Optimus stare at me funny. Strange, but semi-productive. He shrugged. I nodded, and started twirling around till I got dizzy. Optimus said something, but I couldn't hear it from the air thumping in my ears. Then, I fell. "Oof!" I grunted, getting splashed in the face with water. The world was spinning around me, and I felt like I was tilting. I got onto my hands and knees, trying to refrain from regurgitating whatever I ate earlier. "I'm ready," I giggled, standing back up. My clothes were soaked, and so was my face. My cheeks fuzzed, and my ring finger started to fall asleep. "Something bad is happening," I declared, trying bite my finger awake. It felt swollen and numb, even when I dislocated it. "Nothing." I huffed air, and popped it back in place. I swear you let Megatron control your mind again," I growled, narrowing my pupils. "Molly, this is no time to snarl," I told myself. "The Decepticons are here now, and B is back at base. Hopefully. Focus on what is at hand." I nodded to myself, and with a metallic sweep, my claws were embedded into the ice. With heavy struggle, I made it to the top of the slippery glacier. I heard engines, and turned. Bulkhead was right behind me. I smirked, and jumped. My skin stretched, my head elongated, and my teeth sharpened. My claws pounded on the ground, my dragon form raced away from Bulk. RC zoomed next to him, and they tailed each other to the ship. I smirked, taking off in a blast. My white belly scales helped me camouflage with the rest of the scenery, and my upper blue scales made me hidden in the sky. By the time I was leveled with the ship, they could hardly see me. I'm glad I stayed in the air, cause breakdown was plummeting towards the team and crashed into the ice, making them transform. I circled the ship, before spotting red paint climbing up the side. "Optimus!" I gasped, and flew closer. He was safer where he was now than if he was anywhere else. I breathed in struggle, and went back to circling the ship. With a scrape, I landed on the ship's top, behind Starscream and Knockout. My claws scratched the metal, creating deep grooves. I smirked, clanking way to the deranged seeker. I emitted a deep growl from my chest, my eyes blazing with hate. The cons jumped, turning to me. "Lord Starscream!" Knockout shouted, backing away. "So it's Lord now, huh?" I chuckled darkly. "I find that humorous," I snarled, lowering my head evilly. "First, you experiment on me," I growled, getting closer with each stride. "Then you proclaim yourself more superior, and now you are threatening the very existence of my people." My tail snapped open, two metal shears protruding out their confines. "I'm going to enjoy this," I roared, and charged forwards. Starscream shrieked, scrambling away on his heel. "Where do you think you're going?" I froze. hearing yells. Raf! I snarled one more time, snapping at his neck, and flew off. I heard him call me weak, call me a coward, call me a fool. PFFFFT, like a care. The entrance into the ship was open, and I just followed Raf's scent. I heard him yell once more, and turned into the corner. My legs straightened out, and my scales disappeared. Back in human form, I soared into where his scent trail ended. Raf, are you all right? I asked, seeing him on the floor. Yeah. He wheezed, scooting next to me. But he's... I know, I choked, bringing him closer. I know. Ratchet slammed into the wall next to us, and I gasped. Rage flared in my chest, and I snarled. My glare directed itself to then Megatron's body. This has to stop. I snarled, standing up. Bumblebee. I looked down, seeing Ruff yelling at his guardian. B's body turned to us, his optics dilated extremely. That's not Raphael. I hissed, guarding Ruff. I could feel Ruff's tears drip against my leg, and I scooted us back. I growled lower, my ears filling with a beating that I couldn't hear over. 1 second, Ruff was swinging from the connection cable, thrown off, and the next B was plunging the corrupted energy into the twisted mesh's spark chamber. B stumbled back, having stabbed Megatron's spark with the dark energon. Megatron's body shook violently with the pulsing energy. I grabbed Raphael, pushed him back, and backed away. But I couldn't move. Megatron's eyes snapped open. I sucked in air with a hiss as he stood up and walked towards us. I wanted to scream, to get back that rage that was there when I was attacking Starscream. Where was the hate I felt when I was in the mindscape? Obviously not wanting to hang around, that's for sure. Eradicans skidded outside the door, frozen in shock. Decepticons. Megatron boomed, his red optics searing into my mind. Your rightful lord and master has returned. I gulped, guarding Raph with my wings. Megatron glared down at the bots and Raph, but when he turned to me, his optics only grew with more interest. Finish these pests, he ordered, walking past us. Now that is not how you treat a queen. I snarled. I have my own extermination to perform. I growled loudly, looked back to Raph, and my eyes grew heavy. The Decepticons started to fire at us with red blasts, and they whizzed past my hair. Molly. Down here. Raph yelled at me. I looked back to them, Ratchet and Raph all in safe ground. I shook my head regretfully, and snapped my wings open. I thrusted into the thin air, drew my armor, and threw my discs at the rust buckets' heads. Go. Now. I yelled to them, and flew out the labs. My wing beats were unsteady and quick, my body trying to get out of here as fast as it could. My nose smelt the burning flames, and I followed that. No sign of Megatron through the halls I went through, but a different exit. A landing bay. I crashed out of the sliding doors, and soared up. I saw Optimus in vehicle mode racing towards the heat ray. I smirked, but it quickly went away when I saw Starscream sitting at the ray's control. My scales appeared once again, and my spines glowed bright, toxic blue. I lunged forward, jumping in front of Optimus as the ray swung towards us. The impact forced my jaws open, and out spewed a beam of blue fire. It pushed back the flames licking at my shoulder scales. A long high-pitched streaking sound came from my mouth, and I lunged away. Optimus growled, jumping from behind me and towards the lens. No! Starscream yelled, as Optimus struck the ray. A fiery blast exploded from it, flashing the Arctic in odd colors. I was thrown off the ship, and the heat seared there. Scales right off of me, forcing me to shift to pure human form. My back curled, and my hair flew around my face. I opened my eyes, and the ground around me was reduced to puddles. Yuck! I whimpered, holding my side. A familiar sting prodded at my face. I reached up to touch the sting, and jerked back. It was only hot air. I breathed out in relief, and crawled up. Optimus? I called out, Optimus? I ran around the block of ice, looking around frantically. The roar of a jet passed my ears, and I looked up. Starscream was being slammed backwards by Megatron. Great. I huffed, and shuffled around the ice. Finally, I found the rest of the team. Everybody all right? I shouted through cuffed hands, my shoulders slumped in exhaustion. Optimus turned without haste to me. Molly. He breathed in relief, you are all right? Mind the bruises. I shrugged, looking around. Optimus nodded, picking me up gently. Ratchet, he cummed, we need a bridge. You are not the only ones. I heard Ratchet say from behind us. Raph was perched on Bumblebee's shoulder, waving at us. Everything's back to normal. Ratchet sighed, finishing the body scan. Bee beeped, nodding his helm. Well, normal for Bumblebee. But with everyone else, everyone meaning Jack, Myko and Raph, I was throwing stuff out of my beanbag. It's too darn hot. I screamed in my head, and scooted my way into the case. The fabric around me frosted over as I tried to keep a cool temperature. Speaking of normal, I heard Optimus say from the outside, Molly seems to be back to her usual hiding. Nah. Myko waved her hand, she in her beanbag. I do not see her. No, literally, Myko pointed out, she's inside her beanbag. She threw out all the little stuffing in there, and made a hobbit hole out of it. Come on down, Molly. She shouted up to me. I groaned, and started scooting my way to the stairs. Or, tried to anyways. I at least bumped into several objects and the table before giving up. Can I just stay here till I die? I managed to puff out. Fine. Optimus laughed, but only till 4. But that's 13 minutes. I know.
Hey guys, what's going on? Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you guys want to watch more like it, please subscribe to my channel and become part of the video game fanfiction plot. And please leave a comment down below and hit that like button. If you guys have any suggestions on any stories you guys want me to read, don't hesitate. They're always welcome here in the video game fanfic plot. That also goes for video games. Until next time, goodbye!